letting go of the breath, relaxing deeper and deeper, coming into the present, right here, right now. As we gently bring ourselves into the present, into the present, to observe the breath from this present, relaxing, letting go, feeling, being aware, noticing the calmness which comes to prevail as we bring ourselves away from the future and the past, letting go of the things that we cling on to, emotions, states of mind, anxiety, letting go of anything which is beyond the present, arriving into this present moment, here and now, here and now. Gently observing the present breath, the arising, the falling, the arising, falling, the arising, falling. Arising, falling. Observe, drawing inspiration from the collective of this group here, and the collective of the world, of all meditators all across the world, as we endeavor to be within the present and observe the breath. Observe. Observe. Gently, gently. From a position of awareness and samadhi, let us guide our attention to now, supported by wisdom. Wisdom over the arising and passing away of all formations based upon the breath, spreading on to every sankhara formation in our life, internal and external. Like a jar when filled to the brim and filled even more, overflows. Let this insight now spread from the breath to the body to the formations of mind, and from the mind to all the elements beyond the mind and body. Anicca, 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 dukkha, 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 anatma, anatma, anatma. Gently, gently, taking a deep breath in, breathing out, relaxing yourself, relax. Taking another deep breath in, breathing out, relaxing deeper, deeper, deeper. Gently, allowing yourself to now take a moment to tap into the warmest compassion available within our being. To direct powerful vibrations of compassion and strength towards ourselves, the people that we live with, the people around us, and also especially those in our motherland, without any form of aggression in mind, but purely with the power of metta. Let us share this powerful vibration with all those affected by this plight that people are going through in Sri Lanka. Wishing everyone strength, strength of mind and body to overcome fear and anxiety. May they all be well and happy. May they all be strong. May their hearts be filled with courage. May all beings be well and happy. 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 With the power of this metta that we collectively share with all those people in our motherland, may their bodies and minds heal steadfast. May their minds minds be filled with courage and strength to overcome this difficult time. And may the leaders turn to what is right, what is just, what is difficult to do. May all beings be well and happy. Well and happy. Well and happy. Taking a deep breath in. Breathing out. Relax. 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 As we gently, when we are ready, open our eyes and awaken into the present. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, everyone. So, Vipassana Ñāna. Two weeks ago, we went over Bhanga, the knowledge of dissolution. And today, we have to go over the awareness of fearfulness, Bhayatupattana Ñāna, and probably also go into Adinava Ñāna and Nibbita Ñāna. Because in a way, it's somewhat like a train, those three jnanas. And to just recollect upon, from Bhanga Ñāna, or the knowledge of dissolution, all the way down to Gotrabhu Ñāna, these knowledges all fall under, these I think 9 knowledges, all fall under the purification by knowledge and vision of the course of practice, which is Patipada Ñāna Dassana Vishuddhi. Right? Patipada Ñāna Dassana Vishuddhi. Now, what is Bhayatupattana Ñāna? To understand Bhayatupattana Ñāna, it would be fitting that we recall upon the essence of Bhanga Ñāna. Bhanga Ñāna was within what we spoke about, within the limits of dissolution. This is the nature, or this is the level of insight where all that we at first noticed is now noticed or apprehended for their truest qualities or functions, which would of course fall under impermanence, suffering, and non-self, because it's Vipassana, right? So if it is Vipassana, Vipassana would always have to fall under impermanence, suffering, and non-self. And all of the jnanas, all of the Vipassana jnanas have to attribute to the further understanding, cultivation, development of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. So
with whatever insight that we gain through Bhanga Ñāna, යම් කිසි සංස්කාරක ධර්මයක බංගේ නැමැති ඒ යථාර්ථය අපිට තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන් වුණා නම් ඒ යථාර්ථයේ පදනම් කරගෙන බයටුපට්ඨාන ඥානය හට ගන්නවා. Whatever foundations that we saw with Bhanga Ñāna with regards to the dissolution of Sankhara, now Bhayatupattana Ñāna arises. What is Bhayatupattana Ñāna? Bhayatupattana Ñāna speaks on fear. Fear towards what? Now, when we do not know Dhamma, we fear that going or traversing through the path of Dhamma would discourage us from living life that we know, that we live day to day, isn't it? You know, so even when that is where sometimes for parents, they get a bit fearful when their kids start practicing Dhamma. My gosh, will he do the things, you know, will they get a job, you know, all of these things, isn't it? Right? I mean, that is what my mother thought of me. You know, we had this sort of sense of fear, right? But remember, now this is where this becomes clearer. The fear arises not towards the meditation, the practice, the being, but the fear arises taking as object what is seen through Vipassana. Do you understand? What is seen through the Vipassana? Right? Now, for example, my lovely water bottle. If I am to say, I am attached to this water bottle, විදර්ශනාවෙන් මට පෙන්නනවා මෙන්න මේ වතුර බෝතලෙත් අනිත්‍යයි. මේ වතුර බෝතලේ අනිත්‍යයි, මේ වතුර බෝතලයට ඇලෙන එක නිස්සාරයි, ශූන්‍යයි, කිසිම ඕලාරිකයි කියන මේ ගති ටික මට පෙන්වා දෙනවා. ඔතකොට යම්කිසි විදියකට මගේ සිත තුළ යම්කිසි බයක් හටගන්නවා නම් උතර ඒ බය හටගන්නේ මේ අරමුණ අර ආකාරයෙන් ඇලෙන ලෝභයෙන් මම මේ අරමුණ ගත්තා නේද? ඒ ලෝභේ මෙතනට අවශ්‍ය සුදුසු නෑ නේද කියන දේ උඩ තමයි බය හටගන්නේ. Do you understand? So the Vipassana Ñāna then arises taking, for example, the sanskaras, that the mental formations that attached, clung to this object. Right? This object. At this position, the meditator comes to know or be aware of a process such as this. It seems as if the mind breaks into two. What is the two? The simple noticing, which is one. The second bit is the formation, the behavior, the conduct of the interaction between the nature of the mind and the object. Is that clear, everyone? The nature of the mind and the object. What do I mean by this? The mind has a nature, and this nature is not reversed at this point in time. We are simply aware. So as we notice, we also notice the fact that the mind, the nature of the mind, by nature goes into clinging onto the object or preparing itself to cling onto the object, and we see this as a separate function. Do you understand? Right? Now, if I might take an example to make it all the more clearer, let us say it is a cold day, as these days are. Right? And we have, through the week, we have our morning meditations, and you know, it is very natural and normal that sometimes you might feel a little bit lazy, isn't it? right? That we might feel a bit lazy. Now, if we take that instance where the laziness arises, there is a mind that notices the laziness and this function of laziness. The laziness would try to persuade us to say, okay, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks. I can take a break today. It's fine. I can join the Thursday. If I'm skipping the today's class, I can join the Thursday class, or I will join the Sunday class, whatever, right? The noticing mind notices this interaction. Do you understand? This interaction between the nature of the mind, right, which would be, of course, අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් Noble Eightfold Truths පැත්තෙන් කතා කරන්න. We can talk in the light of the Noble Eightfold Truths, right? I'm sorry, the Four Noble Truths. We can talk from the side of the Panchupadana Skandha, the Panchaskandha, the 5 aggregates of clinging, right? We can talk in whichever way that we want. So the nature of the mind is to cling. තණ්හාව සහ අවිද්‍යාව අපේ මනස තුල කොහොමද වැඩ කරන්නේ? මෙන්න මේ වැඩ කරන ක්‍රමය තමයි this noticing mind, the satya, the kusala satya takes as object. ඔතකොට පංච උපාදානස්කන්ධයෙන් කෙරෙන ක්‍රමවේදයට තමයි මෙතන දැන් fear කියන දේ හටගන්නේ. Do you understand? The fear arises towards, my gosh, I've been doing this, isn't it? This is the nature of the mind. විදර්ශනාවෙන් අපිට යථාර්ථය අපිට පෙන්වා දෙනවා. අපි කලින් හිතුවේ, no, this is a part of me. I don't want to do this. You know, it's too cold. It's going to be difficult for me. We make up all these excuses in our minds. I'm too old for this. Right? You know, I don't have the energy for this. I had to cook. And we realize that formation, that sanskara dharma arises through the corruption that is brought in through the 5 aggregates of clinging. The මොනවටද අපි ඇලුනේ? We clung on to, we could say, restlessness. We could say the doubt. We could say the akusala chittas. We could also talk about lobha towards something else. Okay, I'd rather go eat something warm and nice, right? Rather than actually sitting down for meditation. Now you see, the mind now breaks itself away in a way that we understand the formation of the sankhara and how that formation took place and happened. That is Bhayatupattana Ñāna. That is Bhayatupattana Ñāna. The essence that we were able to see for ourselves at the phase of Bhanga Ñāna, once we continue, we come to realize or to experience a sense of fear towards this malignant process of mind, which is wholly driven by the hindrances, the ogres, the yogas, whatever that we could say in terms of the Dhammic analysis that we know. Any driven, in plain simple terms, the kileshas. And all we realize, in the bigger picture, we realize all of this is the way the prapanchas comes to play itself out. Prapancha dharmayan මේ ආකාරයට තමයි අපි මේ සංසාර ගමනේ අලවා තියාගන්නේ කියන දෙය අපිට තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. ඒ තේරුම් ගැනීමෙන් අපිට ඒ ක්‍රමවේදිය කෙරෙහි බයක් හට ගන්නවා. තේරුණාද? Is that clear, everyone? Right? That is Bhayatupattana Ñāna. Right? That is Bhayatupattana Ñāna. Based on this Bhayatupattana Ñāna, right? Based upon this Bhayatupattana Ñāna, we become aware of this sense of fearfulness. Kochchara Sinhalen kiwwot bayankara gatiya. Api me deyata kochchara baya wiya yutuyda kina me vidarshanawa hatagannawa. Remember that this fear is not the fear that you would have in terms of real sort of akusala fear. This is a kusala fear, right? This fear reinforces and supports your practice, whilst the akusala fear destroys your practice. Do you understand? Right? In order to navigate, remember in the Abhidhamma, last week, we spoke about how kusala, we didn't speak about it, but we brought it up with what our friend Damsiri brought up in terms of kusala dhamma, right? Remember we touched upon that there is an area where kusala can lead to akusala. Do you understand? And we know the phrase, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. How fitting. Right? Now this is why I took the time earlier to bring to light the fact that api mona armunada ganne. Mona armunak araganada e mona armunak padanam karaganada me baya kiyana de hataganne, because that is very important. The practitioner who is misguided, if the practitioner takes their life as object, this life, this mother, this father, this person who has children, grandchildren, a house, a car, and bills to pay, if the person at this point takes life as object, it turns into akusala pretty fast, where now the meditator will feel a sense of fear to continue the practice, right? But that is why it is important to understand that the fear arises not taking life as object, but taking the vidarshana object as object. Vidarshana object as object. What does that mean? If we clung on to the breath, it takes that as object. If we clung on to the feeling of pleasure of the seat that we have during our meditation, it takes that as object. Do you understand? That is a sanskara that is taken as object. The moment that we feel a sense of doubt, restlessness, and we go into taking the whole entire life as object, at that point, we are unable to balance the vipassana. So it falls off the rails. And then if we take life as an object, we will not be able to continue our practice. That is why it is important to understand and realize in Vipassana, with the Vipassana Ñāna, what we take as object is a sankhara of the moment and not the whole entire general picture at this point in time. Do you understand, everyone? Right? Any questions? Any questions, any doubts that you have? If something that I might sort of imagine or think about, if this was told to me for the first time, is okay, when do I take life as object then? Isn't that sankhara my life? Right? Yes, it is. And in time, the Vipassana spreads over to the entirety of life as well. However, at this point, it would simply be misguided because that perception is not existent. Even at this point, when we practice, right, meditation time, isn't there a fact in our mind that we sort of see meditation time separately as an isolated practice, sometimes from the reality of what our life is? Isn't it? Right? But with time, as we progress in Vipassana, we come to realize that it is really not. But up until we do come into that realization, it is not proper to push it. So what we now then analyze is simply the present moment object. Present moment object. Right? Present moment object. So iPad Pro level 11-inch is asking us a question. Please provide an example of samskara of the moment. An example of the samskara of the moment could be the internal dialogue or the way that we interpret the breath, for example. Right? The way that we interpret the breath. Right? Now, even in the process of, for example, understanding the breath or the noting of the breath, that itself is a sanskara. When we observe, we have just come from Bhanga Ñāna. So when we observe the dissolution of the breath, that itself is the object. Right? That itself could be the object. For example, could it be preoccupation of current issues unfolding in Sri Lanka? Oh, this is Ruani. Okay. So, for example, could it be Hi, Ruani. For example, could it be preoccupation of current issues unfolding in Sri Lanka? So, at this point, Ruani, we are simply speaking of Vipassana Ñāna, right? Vipassana Ñāna. And with regards to the unfolding of the issues or any issues, Sri Lankan or otherwise, that is unfolding in Sri Lanka, we could what the Vipassana would teach us at this point, if we are coming through or at the pace of Bhanga Ñāna, is it would give us now, for example, there is a sense of confusion, isn't it? There is a sense of confusion with whatever issue that arises. There is a sense of confusion. What is the confusion? Where is this going to head? How will this stop? How will this come to an end? What will happen? What will happen towards the end? How many lives will be lost? All of these confusions, we don't know. That's the basic answer. We don't know, right? But how does the Vipassana change that view, right? This sense of this confusion that arises in our mind. It brings us to a position. So now we don't actually know. It brings us into a position where the confusion will not arise. And we understand the fact that currently we are simply, we don't know. The fact of we don't know or we do not know where it is going to head, and the emotional confusion that it creates, and in turn the instability that it creates in our mind, is two different things. Right? Now, for example, let me bring an example for that. Let us say the food that you have cooked at home today is not good. Something went wrong, right? Something went wrong and it is not good. Now the food is not good today, right? It did not, maybe you boil the vegetables too much, but still edible, but not your best performance, right? That is one thing. The mind, which takes that as object and goes on a whole role on its own, is another thing. Do you understand? This does not arise. This is there because this is what is unfolding, what is happening at the moment. But this instability of mind will not arise. Why? Because we understand Bhanga Ñāna. Anything that arises comes to an end. It is only one meal. This does not really speak on my performance entire life. It is simply just one meal. And we know there were some meals that did not turn out right and we were upset about it, isn't it? Right? We were upset about it. That upset, that sort of emotion that create a sense of instability in our life now does not arise. That is how it would sort of spread into the issues that we have in our lives. Yes, Shriyani.
So I got two questions. One is this Bhayatupattana Ñāna, you can use it, practice every day, according to what your example now. And also the other thing, I thought when by the time we come into this stage, we are in Samadhi and we are looking towards the Samadhi through Bhayatupattana Ñāna. That's what I thought, I understood. Is that right?
All right. First one.
Yeah.
First one to clear out is within the practice of Yoniso Manasikara, yes. Yoniso Manasikaren api hitanota අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් අපිට එදිනෙදා ජීවිතේ අනිත්‍ය දුක්ඛය අනාත්මය කියන මේ ත්‍රිලක්ෂණය අපිට ජීවිතේ මේ එදිනෙදා ජීවිතේ තේරුම් ගැනීමට ජීවත් වීමට අපිට උපකාරයක් කරා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියන දේ අපි දන්නවා. ඒක ඒ විදියට ජීවත් වීම යෝනිසෝ මනසිකාරය කියලා අපි නම්මුත් කරනවා. ඒ වුණාට අපි තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන ශ්‍රියානේ යෝනිසෝ මනසිකාරයෙන් ජීවත් වීමයි විදර්ශනා ඥානයක් මට්ටමින් යම්කිසි සාකච්ඡාවක් පවත්වන එකයි දෙකක්. විදර්ශනා ඥානයේ නැමැති දේ තුලින් යම්කිසි දකින්න යම්කිසි විදිහකට යම්කිසි දෙයක් දැකීමයි යෝනිසෝ මනසිකාරයෙන් යම්කිසි දෙයක් හිතීමයි දෙකක් කියන දේ අපි තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන. Right? So whilst we would sort of say that yes, of course, Shriyani, you can do that. Bhayatupattana Ñāna තියෙන මේ භයංකාර ගතිය අපිට යෝනිසෝ මනසිකාරයට අපිට එකතු කරා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා අපි කියනවත් එක්කම අපිට තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන හරි මේ දේ විදර්ශනාවෙන් අපිට දකින්නට වෙන ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එකක් අපිට අවශ්‍යයි කියන දේත් අපි දැනගන්න ඕන. If you are knowledgeable on that fact, Shriyani, yes, of course, but don't confuse yourself.
No.
Don't confuse yourself that your Yoniso Manasikara is actually your Vidarshana. Vidarshana Ñāna. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right? ඔතකොට අපි හැම වෙලේම අර openness, we must maintain a sense of openness of mind to realize, okay, I know this, of course, because, Bhante has taught us, I've listened to Dhamma talks, I've read the Dhamma, all of this, so I know this. But have I seen it? Hari, Dharme, something that we always see is, සමහර වෙලාවට මේ ධර්මයේ තුල අපි ජීවත් වෙනකොට සමහර කට්ටිය ධර්මයේ පාවිච්චි කරලා තව ගොරෝසු වෙන්න හදනවා. Right? Remember, මේ ධර්මයේ පාවිච්චි කරාම when we use the essence of Dhamma, it shouldn't be making us harder. It should be sort of relaxing us, making our minds more open. ඉස්සර මිනිස්සේ කියන දේ අපිට අහන්න බැරි කමක් තිබ්බා නම් අපිට මේ වෙනකොට අපිට පේන්න ඕන ඒ මිනිස්සයා වැරදි දෙයක් කිව්වත් හරි දෙයක් කිව්වත් මට තේරෙන දෙයක් කිව්වත් මට තේරෙන්නේ නැති දෙයක් කිව්වත් මට ඒකට අහගෙන ඉන්න පුළුවන් ගතිය කියන දෙය මට ඊට ඉස්සරට වඩා තියෙනවා කියන එක යම් කිසි විදිහකට තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන.
Understand.
යම් කිසි විදිහකට අපිට ඒක තේරුම් ඒක අපිට නැත්තම් තව ගොරෝසු වෙලා නම් එනම් ඒකෙන් අපි තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ එනම් මම මේ ධර්මයේ වැරදි පැත්තකින් අල්ලගෙන තියෙන්නේ. කොහෙද මම වැරදියෙන් අල්ලගත්තේ? Where did I sort of hold this or start holding this from the wrong place? Like that snake, isn't it? The snake where we hold from the wrong place comes back to bite us. Same way, right? So we become far more flexible. We do not become harder and harder as we progress. Yeah, is that?
Yeah, understand. Yeah, yes,
understand. That is for the first one. What was the second question, Shriyani?
I thought we were by the time we come into this kind of meditation now, this through meditation practice, we are in Vipassana stage. So we should be seeing the Vipassana through Bhayatupattana Ñāna. So that is Banga Vevi, Ativevi, Nativevi Yana Vidya Kohomada Kiela. Is that right?
Yeah. So now remember, if we look at so what essentially Shriyani, I'm guessing that Shriyani is asking is, she's referring to the Samadhi at this point, which also has to be cleared out, which is, Shriyani, Samadhi kena there, ekenne apita rahat wenakam, ekenne ape siulu keles dharma nasanakam, ape Samadhi is not the greatest and the most powerful.
Yeah, understand.
Right?
Yeah.
So, මොකද මේ විතර්ක තීන තාක්කල් ප්‍රපංච ධර්ම අපේ මනස තුළ වැඩ කරන තාක්කල් නීවරණ ධර්ම අපේ මනස තුළ වැඩ කරන තාක්කල් අපේ සමාධිය යම්කිසි විදියකට හානභාගී සමාධිය වශයෙන් අපි කියන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ හානියට ලක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් කියන දේ තියෙනවා. It is still at risk. Which then would say that the samadhi is not the strongest. So as we progress, we find that the samadhi also progresses. Right? So even, for example, a person can come to Banga Ñāna or Bhayatupattana Ñāna. It's කීමු වැරදි විදියට අරුමුණ අරගෙන භාවනාව නවත්තනවා නම් ඔතකොට දැන් සමාධිය නැති වෙලානේ. සමාධිය නැති වෙනවා. ඔතකොට ඒකෙන් කියවෙන්නේ අපේ සමාධිය ඒ මට්ටමටම ස්ථාපිත වෙලා නැහැ කියන එක නේද? ඒ හින්දාම තමයි අපි දැනගන්න ඕනේ මේ සමාධිය කියන දේත් එක්ක ශ්‍රයානි ගොඩාක් ඇලෙන්න යන්න එපා. Samadhiya, the samadhi that we will have is a manifestation of the nivaranas. Nivarana dharma kochara yatapat vela thenawada anitya dukkaya anatmaya කියන මේ ත්‍රිලක්ෂණය අපේ ජීවිත තුළ අපි කොච්චර අවබෝධ කරගෙන තියෙනවද කියන පදනම උඩ තමයි අපේ මේ සමාධිය රඳා පවතින්නේ. ඒ හේතුවෙන් ඔය සමාධිය කියන දෙය අපි කොච්චර අපි ගොඩක් ඇලෙන්න යන්න එපා. සමාධිය with the understanding, with the ප්‍රඥා සමාධිය හට ගන්නවාමයි. Just focus on the arising and the passing away of the object. Do you understand, Shriyani? I hope I brought some sort of sense into that area. Yeah?
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante.
All right. Any other questions before we call it a day? All right, everyone. So, before we close the session, can I ask for a minute silence for everything that is happening in Sri Lanka? Right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And I wish all of you have a wonderful rest of the day. We do have a bana which is happening at 7 p.m. tonight. I'm not sure whether some of you who are living near London would be heading over to the protest that is, I think, happening at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock today. But if you are, all the best. But yeah, let us share in our daily practice. Let us think about, the Sri Lankans, our sort of brothers and sisters, our relatives, what's happening, in Sri Lanka, the situation. I was having, Chi was texting me last night. I don't know if you know, but I am, I've been having, very personal ties with the Rajapaksa family for a long time. And, which I, in the text message, he says, if the Sri Lankan people are going to, he says blatantly, if the Sri Lankan people are going to sort of continue with the unrest, that they are even prepared to go into war with them. Right, which then I forwarded to Shriranti and asked, come on, like what your son is saying, this what you're doing, but, I think, it is very important that, when we are, living in a country away from Sri Lanka, to do whatever we possibly can, even through our social medias, even through sharing certain stuff, if we know sort of our local MPs or whatever, to make them aware of what is happening. And these are things that we could do personally to sort of support the situation, and we must. And we absolutely must. But whilst we are sort of looking at all of these things, also remember that this is also within Dhamma. Right, so we must not at any point sort of flutter away from the Dhamma and sort of act in ways that would destroy our practice, but we must support the efforts that people are sort of conducting in Sri Lanka, putting their lives at risk, and show whatever that we could possibly do, we must do. And I can assure you that I am also doing the same. Right. So take care, everyone. I will see you at 7 p.m. Take care and have a lovely rest of the day. Terwan Sarnai.
Terwan Sarnai, Bante.